Hi, everyone. So welcome to the Poets in Pajamas reading number 60. Tonight you have an essayist in pajamas on this fine Sunday night. So I'm just going to look around this Facebook log window and get a little bit accustomed to reading online while you all show up and get settled. So I might say that all over again in just another couple of minutes because it's definitely a new forum than from reading to an audience. So looking around, oh good, I see perhaps two of you are there, so hello. Welcome again to the Poets in Pajamas reading number 60. That's very exciting. Tonight you have an essayist in pajamas. And I'll be reading from my book, Be With Me Always, which is an essay collection that I just published this March. And while we wait for a few more people to show up, I'll tell you a little bit about it. The essays in this collection are loosely themed around hauntedness, not at all traditional ghost stories, but essays that explore sort of the darker nostalgias that might haunt our lives. A past lover who shadows your thoughts, a book that you can't stop reading and keep returning to, a place that draws you again and again, things of that nature. So the subject matter varies greatly. The theme is fairly loose, but most of the essays involve hauntedness in some sort of way. So in a few minutes, I'll be reading from Be With Me Always, but we're gonna wait a little bit for more people to show up. Hopefully you are comfortable in your pajamas. I have my happy mug and my pajamas of sorts. If it were winter time, it might be a little bit cozier. But since it's in August, yeah, at least in the mid-Atlantic, perhaps not so much. Okay. A bit about the title of the book, Be With Me Always. I struggled with how to title this collection of essays because they're so very different. Some of them are really traditional in form, some of them are more lyric, some of them are more narrative, some of them are more challenging. It's really quite a mix of forms and a mix of subject matters. I'd said before that they were all loosely themed around hauntedness, but they involve thinking about Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII's relationship and how rather tragically it changed over time. An encounter with a nude model in a sculpture class, Michael Cunningham's novel, The Hours, which is a book that definitely haunts me. So the subjects are all over the place. And time out, I can see comments on the side now. So I'm glad that people are coming. Thank you for making your presence known. It's very different reading into the little peephole camera of your laptop than it would be at a bookstore to all of your faces. So it's nice to see you in this form. So the title of the book was difficult for me, but one of the essays involves Wuthering Heights. Actually, Wuthering Heights comes up a couple times in this collection. And I was really struck with a line from that book. It's something that Heathcliff says to his love, Kathy, who is already dead when he says this to her. But I put it at the very front of the book so people who know Wuthering Heights could read and recognize this. But he says to her, "Be with me always, take any form, drive me mad, only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you." And when I read this, I realized that Heathcliff wants to be haunted. He wants to be tormented better than just having complete absence. And I thought, that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the subjects in this book. Some of them are difficult, some of them are dark, some of them are certainly lovelorn, but all of them are things that I really value in my life. So hopefully this collection shows a little bit of the value of hauntedness. Hello, people who are just joining. The Hours is so good. That's one of my favorite contemporary novels. So I'm glad you agree. Okay. I'm going to start by reading some of the first essay in the book. It's called The Split, and the title refers to a near-death experience I had, two of them actually, but I'm only going to read from one of them. The first was a near drowning, And the second one you will hear. So I'm going to read an excerpt from two different places in the first essay in the collection, The Split. I was in France at a party with friends and friends of friends. We were on the patio of someone's country house playing a drinking game that involved reciting limericks and drawing on each other's faces with a burnt cork. When I went inside for a glass of water and to take a break from the smoke in my eyes and the French in my head, Mark kissed me behind the pantry door and asked me to go upstairs. I said no. But when Enzo, at 1 a.m, asked if I wanted to go for a ride on his motorcycle, I said yes. We flew, no helmets, my hair streaming, the wind blowing any words we might have said into the night behind us. Then I saw the tree ahead of us. And when I knew we couldn't hold the curve, when the impact was inevitable, I thought, with a directness that surprised me, you should be thinking something really important right now. But there was no time to think. We slid along a barbed wire fence, crashed into the tree, and I was thrown from the bike. Then nothing. I came to in a field of grass, its itchiness a reassurance that I was alive. There was as yet no need for last thoughts. Instead, I had to attend a more practical need. My arms and legs could move, my head could turn, but my face was wet and I couldn't see out of my left eye. But even while I was absorbed in this physical self, some other part of me stood by, aloof, watching and waiting for what I didn't know. I will get help, Enzo said, stumbling and backing away from me. He tore the motorcycle from the wires of the fence. I will bring help, he said again, before the engine caught and drowned my weak voice saying over and over, like the lover I wasn't but wanted to be, wait, don't leave me, wait. Then I was alone, or thought I was. It was dark and getting cold. That other self grew more vigilant after Enzo left. It watched as I flailed weakly against circumstance. It watched as I dug a mirror out of my back pocket and saw that the wetness on my face was blood. Blood had blinded my left eye, and I saw that I wasn't going to be all right after all. It watched as my shock became panic in the privacy of the night fields. But the whimpering, squealing me knew that second self, calm and clear, was there as well, attending me during those moments of separation. Later, I began to wonder if the body has a chemical, something like adrenaline, that bathes us in this calm acceptance, something different from the endorphins that gauze over our feelings of pain, something instead that gives a mental awareness in the midst of the body's trauma. I began to wonder if during such moments of bodily crisis, we split for spiritual reasons. More and more, I believe we do. Even if the split self is triggered by a chemical reaction, it serves no larger physical evolutionary purpose. Adrenaline gives us the strength or speed or sureness to survive. Our genes have a better chance of being flung into the future. But the moment of clarity the split self gives us is purely an internal gift that affects no one else but the self. And I began to wonder if that isn't part of the plan as well. If we don't carry a small piece of mystery within us that is intentionally inaccessible for most of our physical, sandwich eating, bus riding, everyday lives. Being in this moment is like a lazy Sunday morning spent in bed, awake yet not fully aware, entranced by the blank expanse of ceiling above, lingering in deep thought that vanishes as soon as I go vertical, leaving nothing but a feeling of great potential behind. This feeling lingers the same way the ghost of the split self does. It is something we can carry with us, regardless of what happens when our split selves reunite, when we get up from whatever bed we have been lying in and walk back into life. Thanks. So if you're just joining us, that was an excerpt from the first essay in my book, Be With Me Always. The first essay is called The Split, and it's about near-death experiences and what might happen to us if there's a kind of split between two different aspects of ourselves, the physical self and then a very odd, cool, collected self that sort of attends us during those difficult moments. Okay. I'm going to take a little look around the screen now because all kinds of things are popping up. So it's nice to see more people have joined. Hello, and thank you. I'm going to read another essay from the book. This one is from the section called Biologies, and it has more essays that have to do with the body. And this one is called A Pill to Cure Love. And at the front, I have the chemical, I guess, formula or composition of acetaminophen, also known as Tylenol. So it has a little visual there at the beginning. And it's called A Pill to Cure Love. If you Google a pill to cure love, it will tell you to take Tylenol, but only the recommended dose. Too much and your liver will malfunction, and then your already malfunctioning heart. Tylenol is a brand name for acetaminophen. Acetaminophen is composed of syllables taken from 3 chemical components: acetyl, amino, and phenol. Acetyl comes from acetic, the Latin from acenum, vinegar, or more properly, wine turned sour. Left open for too long, what was once intoxicating turns bleak. In cooking, you can add vinegar to correct for sweetness. In love, you can add acetaminophen to correct for its loss. You can also use vinegar to remove scorch marks and sweat stains from fabrics, to clean glass, banish weeds, and kill germs, to prevent cracked eggs, loosen a rusty screw, and remove dead skin. These are all such practical uses, but all the lever wants is to burn, sweaty, overgrown, whole, screwed tight, bright, and alive. Amino forms the root of ammonia, a colorless gas with a smell that can snap a reluctant consciousness back into the body with one sharp breath. Like vinegar, ammonia can clean burn marks on glass, strip tarnish from silver, remove stains from clothing. It can also repel moths, keep them from making holes in your clothes, keep them from the flame that draws and kills. Ammonia is also used in fertilizers and explosives, in opposites and contradictions. Because of this, it seems a pharmacon in the cure for love. Phenol is also known as carbolic acid. It was discovered in coal tar in the early 1800s, and John Lister pioneered its use as an antiseptic in the early 1900s. Unlike vinegar and ammonia, carbolic acid smells sweet. It is used in perfumes and lubricants to adorn and ease love. Undiluted, it is poisonous, causes burns, convulsions, stupor. But under the body's surface, when coupled with amines and acetyl, when it has been absorbed through the digestive system and into the nervous system, acetaminophen can soothe the afterscorch of love. I take 2 Tylenol with a large glass of water and think of our dissolution. How I held the sweet shell of you in my mouth, not knowing what bitter chalk lay beneath, not knowing how easily the shell would rupture, how the rancor within would flood and calcify. But the Tylenol hold their shape past my throat and dissolve in my stomach. They pass through the bloodstream to the liver, where their real work begins. The liver purifies toxins. It filters out all that the metaphorical heart thinks it can take. Too much sugar, too much fat, too much richness. It converts nutrients into substances that the body can use. The liver is a pragmatist. The liver is the antidote to the lover. In the body, prostaglandins transmit pain signals, but here in the liver, acetaminophen is absorbed to block them. Return this pain to sender. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. The fever you once induced has been broken. This account has been deactivated. But as with any spell, the user must be careful. Too much acetaminophen and the liver fails. Overwhelmed by the toxins its job is to strain. The cure for love becomes a burden to the heart. The heart fails, the body dies. But just 2 Tylenol, taken every 4 to 6 hours, for a few days, some white nights, a week, perhaps a month, reduces the fever, dulls the pain, metabolizes the love affair. Vinegar, ammonia, tar. They keep the liver alive and filtering out all that was already lost until the remnants are ready to be released by the body, the lover, the one who once loved. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to take another little minute to pause and look around the screen. Thank you all who are just joining us, and thank you for your likes and perhaps loves. Also, I can see little hearts and thumbs up floating across the screen, which is a different kind of experience than seeing faces in an audience, but it's still very nice. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to read one last essay, and then I'm going to open it up to questions from you. I think there's a bit of a delay between when you comment or ask a question and when I can actually see it. So if you have something that occurs to you now, please feel free to write it down. And if not, you can listen to this next and last essay, and then I'll tell a little story about it afterwards to give you a chance to think about what you might want to ask, either about the essays I've read, essays in general, writing life in general. All of those are fine topics. But I'm going to close with one more essay from the biology section. It's also a little bit of lovelorn, but I think it's kind of funny in some spots too. And that last essay is "The Heart is a Torn Muscle." For those of you who don't know this essay, it's a hermit crab essay. A hermit crab essay is an essay that borrows an extra literary form of writing as its own, the way the hermit crab borrows another animal's shell, or perhaps even an object on the beach. Some of you might have seen that very creepy video that was going around on Facebook where a hermit crab had crawled into a doll's head, and the doll's head was slowly walking into the ocean. So sometimes they use what they can find. But a hermit crab essay might be told in the form of a recipe or a list, and this one is told in the form of a online medical advice site like WebMD. And so you'll notice sections like overview, symptoms, self-care, treatments, etc. So the heart is a torn muscle. Overview. Your heart was already full, but then you saw him, and your heartbeat code, not Morse, but a more insistent pulse. Oh yes, that's him, that one. Not the one, capital T, capital O, the one you already have and deeply love. But of all the people in that large room far from home, he was the one for you. And your heart stretched more than it should have, tore a little, and let him in. Symptoms. Swelling, bruising, or redness. The feeling that your lungs contain a higher percentage of oxygen and have somehow grown in their capacity to respire. A heightened sensitivity to glances, postures, gestures, attitudes, and casual remarks from observers. A propensity to blush. Pain at rest, general restlessness, an inability to sleep. Fever dreams, sleepwalking, conscious walking, out of your bedroom, out of doors, into the moonlight or an unmown field shrouded in mist and ache, or fantasies of same. Pain when the specific muscle is used, when your heart beats to force blood through your femoral arteries to your iliopsoas muscles, your sartorius muscles, your peroneus muscles, each expanding and contracting to force your legs to walk away from him, from thrill, from all the promise and potential of an alternate future. Inability to use the muscle at all. Lethargy, apathy, malaise, especially after having walked away from the one in question. Self-care. Apply ice, cool it. The early application of heat can increase swelling and pain. Note, ice or heat should not be applied to bare skin. Always use a protective layer, latex only as a very last resort. Clothing is better, or better still, several feet, a separate piece of furniture, a wall, or a building. Ideally, a state line, a continent. Try an anti-inflammatory, such as herbal tea or a pro-con list. Cool showers and brisk walks embracing air may help. Do not take depressants in the form of alcohol or otherwise. Avoid stimulants, caffeine, chocolate, Cheetos. Protect the strained muscle from further injury by refusing to jump into anything. Avoid the activities that cause the strain and other activities that are painful. Compression, hold yourself together. Elevation, rise above. When to seek care. If home remedies bring no relief in 24 hours, call your youngest and most bohemian friend. If you hear a popping sound signifying a break from your primary relationship, the one, capital T, capital O, you truly know and truly love, call your closest and most trusted friend. Exams and tests. Your youngest and most bohemian friend asks, are you going to run away together, tryst in motels, meet up in Paris, open a P.O. box, wear a trench coat, give each other code names, assume another identity? Would he be up for a threesome? Want to use my place? Says, it's so romantic. Says, tell me everything. Your closest and most trusted friend asks, what do you mean, met someone? Have you thought this through? Is this choice supporting, adding to, enriching, complicating, marring, degrading, not even leaving a blip on the screen in the way in which you will see your life in the years to come? What will you be left with? Regret, memory, or absolutely nothing? Says, time wounds, all heals. Says, don't fuck up. Recommended reading. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. Time Will Darken It by William Maxwell. The Lone Pilgrim by Laurie Colwin. Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. The Literal Zone by Andrea Barrett. The End of the Affair by Graham Greene. No horoscopes. No tarot cards or tea leaves. If you must, you may steep yourself in stories of passion and price. Years from now, you can indulge in what ifs. But for now, right now, put your hand to your chest and feel what beats. The only muscle you can't live without needs to stay whole. Thank you. If you're just joining us or have joined us late, I'm Randon Billings Noble, and I'm tonight's poet in pajamas, technically an essayist in pajamas. And I've been reading from my book, Be With Me Always, which was just published by the University of Nebraska Press this March. And I'm very happy to be doing this leg of the tour from the comfort of my own home into the comfort of your homes as well. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and see. Well, this is a hard question right off the bat, but it's a really good one from Annie. Can you tell us a bit about your writing process? A big question that I'll try to answer sort of practically, and then maybe also a little bit more metaphorically. When I try to teach essay, it gets weird because I feel like I'm sort of a natural essayist. It's just the way that my mind works. But when I teach essay, I try to figure out ways of helping other people get to think these kinds of weird thoughts and these odd associations and poke into these metaphors and make these big claims. So one thing that I do is I do a lot of walking. I live in a city, so I do a lot of city walking first thing or close to first thing in the morning. And I don't really think about things when I walk. I just sort of look around. I write about that a little bit in another essay in the book called Camouflette, and it's about being a version of a flaneuse, someone who walks around the cities and looks at things. But I find that that's a key part of my process because it keeps my mind open to whatever might pass through it. And then when I come home, it's usually to an empty house. Everyone else is at school or work. And I make a cup of coffee and take it to my desk. And then I start thinking about whatever current essayish thought is on my mind. I've been thinking about money recently. I've been thinking about the demands of the market versus the demands of the maker and how someone can try to satisfy both of those things or happily ignore one half or the other. I'm thinking a lot about the color scarlet and many associations with that. So sometimes I'll do a little free writing. Sometimes I'll think about etymologies for words. I find that's a big part of my writing process. I have a lot of that sort of investigation in the book, as you heard a little bit in A Pill to Cure Love. What are the different parts of this word? Where do they come from? What do they mean? And I find that that helps my thinking a lot too. A little bit more nuts and boltsy. I revise as I go. I would love to be a first draft all the way to the end kind of writer. But I find that I write some, and then I go back and I revise a little, and then I write some more, and I go back and revise a little and write some more. But it's not just to make the writing sound good. A lot of that is also that my thinking changes as I'm writing. So perhaps it's a bit of a shotgun approach to answering that question, but hopefully I made a little bit of tracks on that good but big question. Okay. Oh, thank you for nice compliments that I'm seeing too. Another question from David is, how did I decide on the order of the essays? And that's another really good question. I knew from the beginning, the split is actually the oldest essay that I've written. It's from rather a long time ago. And I knew I wanted to start with that because it actually starts with, it began one day at the shore. And I knew I wanted that to be the first essay. And I knew that I wanted to end with devotional, which was a much more recently written essay because of the way that that essay closed off. And then the middle for a while kind of felt like a bit of a free-for-all. I knew that I wanted some of the more lyric and experimentally structured essays to happen early because I didn't want the reader to expect traditional, and then maybe 2/3 of the way through the book be perhaps unpleasantly surprised that things got a little bit weirder. In the middle section of the book, Biologies, that I was reading from, there's The Heart is a Torn Muscle, formatted like a WebMD entry. There's an essay called Vertebrae that's not meant to be a poem, but is told in the form of a spine. So I wanted there to be a little bit of those odd structures early on. And then essays sort of found themselves, I don't know, coalesce sounds like kind of an icky word, but maybe magnetized, that sounds a little more positive. But they kind of hung together in different sections. And so I also divided the book into sections so that kind of like-minded essays could stay together, like the Biologies. There's another one called The Voice at the Window, another section. And those are some more sort of blatantly nostalgic essays thinking about Heathcliff wanting to hear Kathy's voice at the window. And the last section is called The Red Thread because it has an essay called 69 Inches of Thread, Scarlet and Otherwise, and some other essays that are trying to tie things together. So it was a challenge for sure, but that's how I tried to organize the essays in the book. Okay, looking now at more questions. How important is humor in your writing? That's from Karen. Another good question. I think a lot of it happens accidentally, although I might try to be more deliberately humorous perhaps later on. But with some of these darker subjects, I find that having the ability to laugh at yourself a little bit, or I don't know, to have like laughing sympathy perhaps with a younger version of yourself who perhaps made some unfortunate choices or had some overly romantic ideals. I think that's a real generosity on the part of an essayist, because all of the essays in this book are true. They're as true as I know them, and some of them are rather personal, revealing truths about my own life. But to be able to laugh at it a little bit, or to see the comic sides of things, such as in The Heart is a Torn Muscle, that was not a very fun essay to live, but it was rather a fun essay to write. I think Wordsworth talks about poetry being emotion reflected upon in tranquility. And I feel like that kind of time, space, and distance happens and is very helpful for essayists as well. To write about something when it's very fresh is usually not a very good idea. Maybe you can write a scalding draft about whatever that is. But to take some time and let it mellow in your own experience before you try to write about, I think is very helpful. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions, but I'll talk for just one more quick moment, just in case one of you has one last burning thing that you want to ask. I'll keep monitoring that little side panel. But I I did want to talk a tiny bit about how I wrote The Heart is a Torn Muscle. I was away on a residency at the glorious Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, and I wasn't in my studio for 1 hour when I decided to move a really big and heavy desk so that I could look out a window. And as I was moving it, I was turning it and pulling on it, and part of me thought, this is a really bad idea, I'm gonna hurt myself. And lo, I hurt myself. I pulled something in my back, and I wound up doing research, non-academic, non-creative research on WebMD to figure out how to heal my back, how to heal this torn muscle. And I've been sort of toying with the idea of writing an essay about a crush in the form of a timeline. Like, how long can you sustain a crush? How does it peak? What finally breaks it one way or another? But as I was reading through all the sections in the WebMD site for my back, I realized these treatments are very similar for a transgressive crush, a crush you should not be having, or a crush that you really should try to be getting over. And so the form and content just came together really neatly, kind of completely by chance. And I feel like I was very lucky to be able to write that with form and content going so quickly hand in hand. Okay, I'm gonna check to see if there are any more questions. And I don't see any. Okay. Well, if something comes to you and you want to pop over to my own Facebook page and ask, please feel free to do so. If you're coming in very much at the end, I'm Randon Billings Noble. I am tonight's essayist in Pajamas, and I've been reading from my new book, Be With Me Always, which was published in March by the University of Nebraska Press. And you can find it at their website, etc. But more importantly than that, thank you very much for coming and listening, and I hope you all have a good night. Thanks, and bye-bye.